Today, I want to take a real special look inside Magic design with something that really only a Magic designer can talk about, and that's playtest cards. Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast. Now, you might have heard of playtest cards before, and they've changed a lot over time. What I want to do today is take you inside the world of playtest cards and tell you a bit about them, how they've changed over time, and if you keep your eyes peeled, you might even spot a couple cards you recognize. Ready? Let's go. All right, so playtest cards can mean a few different things. Let's start with the internal to Wizards ones. In the very beginning, when Richard Garfield was making Magic, the very first alpha playtest cards, not the alpha set, alpha playtest cards, were simply 120 pieces of yellow cardstock that Richard Garfield wrote on. Him and Barry Reich played the first ever game of Magic with them, and it was a hit. And before you knew it, he was off to making beta playtest cards, little more than pieces of printed paper with some art he grabbed and pips colored in. Then from there he moved on to Gamma, where the playtest cards look mostly the same, but have letters instead of colored pips for mana symbols, and the images are a bit better. This is how Magic was born. But it didn't take long for people to start trying something better. And by the time I got to Wizards 12 years ago, there were two main kinds of playtest cards. The first were Magic blanks. These have a Magic card back, but a totally blank front. We just write on these to shorthand cards. When I started, we actually wrote all of our constructed playtest decks out by hand. Yeah, probably not the most efficient, especially when you consider that after you make a few tweaks to the cards, things get muddy. But these days, we only occasionally write on these if we want to swap a card or two out. They're still around, but more of a rarity for playtests. One funny thing you'll occasionally see around the office, though, is people taking notes from meetings or playtests on blank cards. I've certainly done it. Look, they're such compact notepads that easily fit in a deck box. The other kind of playtest card that was there when I started were these stickered cards. And this is probably more of what you're used to seeing. We printed off stickers, physically applied them to Magic cards, and used them to playtest. These were mostly used for draft playtests at the time. In fact, the highlighter on these was done to help make rarity clear and easy to see while you're drafting. And as I go through these, you'll see several different styles and iterations. Here's the famous Anafenza that swapped on the curve with Siege Rhino. Yep, it used to be 4 mana. Anyway, we developed better and better ways of printing them. The art started to even auto-populate on them as it came in, really bringing playtest games to life instead of just being all blank art boxes. We kept improving these so much that eventually we reached the point where these became the primary kind of playtest card and the blanks were relegated to the past. Here's something from Commander Legends early on when I was having people try drafting the Legends first. You saw 3 Legends in your pack and then this card, and then you stopped drafting the rest of the pack. Kind of interesting, right? Now, these playtest cards ruled supreme until eventually, a couple years ago, something happened that we would be talking about for a long time. A card printer was born. This special machine, made just for us, takes in Magic blanks and prints directly onto them. Gone are the days of having to sticker everything for us to playtest, which is a huge time savings. And this is what the majority of our playtest cards look like today, printed onto a Magic blank. There are occasionally some reasons to sticker or write on blanks, but most decks you'll find use this. The art also auto-populates on these and looks great, though there are occasionally errors as cards get moved around. This is a particularly cursed card that I kept because it's hilarious, of Finhorn Elves with Llanowar Elves' art. With the art box space though, occasionally people will write notes right on the card to remember later, or just to try and convince somebody else. Okay, now that's what we use internally at Wizards, but now what about the playtest cards that you're more used to? In Mystery Booster, we had 121 playtest cards that did everything from hint at Magic's future to poke fun at it, existing in a space between normal Magic and unmagic, or as I like to call it, future sight. Anyway, we designed the playtest cards to look like our printed sticker playtest cards. We even tilted them at weird angles and had them cover up cards underneath to mimic how our playtest stickers look. We even snuck in some fun Easter eggs that way, like Form of the Muldrifter on Muldrifter and One with Death on One with Nothing. Even though we more print onto cards these days, what people expect are stickers, so we wanted them to look like that. Now, if you've never actually seen one, there isn't actually a sticker on top of it. It just looks like one. Now, if you've been to an unknown event at a MagicCon or Gen Con, you might have seen one of these, an unknown playtest card. If you haven't seen these before, go check out my most recent video covering the most recent set of these. They're very much in the vein of the Mystery Booster playtest cards. Totally wild effects you'll only see here. These we do using the old method to, once again, make them look like what people expect. These really are physical stickers on cards printed off and applied. Big thanks to all the Wizard staff and judges who have helped make this possible. Now, none of these are legal in tournament play other than the events you receive them in. If your friends let you rule zero them in Commander, cool, but even if I have a printed lightning bolt off our printer, I can't play it anywhere. And my beloved Experiment 5 isn't legal. They're just for fun. And that brings me to the newest entry in this history, this special Counterspell. As you can see, it's printed just like our recent playtest cards. We literally printed these at the printer we have here at Wizards. It's got this weird foil strip and this Wizards of the Coast at the bottom, but it's printed in the office all the same. And if you got your hands on one, like say in a secret lair, it wouldn't be tournament legal even though it's called Counterspell. It's a playtest card. That said, it is certainly unique. Playtest cards have always captured a bit of Magic's mystery to me and behind the scenes process, and I hoped you enjoy hearing them and seeing them. I showed off a bunch of playtest cards in this video, and I'd love to know in the comments down below what your favorite one you saw this way was. Let me know. I'll talk with you again soon. And until then, may you have fun planning your future. You got this. Let's kick it off with Taught by Sarah. This is part of a 5-card cycle of cards with the Commander enchantment ability. I've had this idea for a while, ores that you put on your commander and then stick around as your commander moves around. This is a good example to me of how these cards don't all strictly work, but for unknown, they work well enough. Speaking of cycles,